My name is Cory. I am 34 years old and I currently live in Sofia, Bulgaria. I was born and raised in America, and I'm a full stack software developer. Before I joined arol.dev, I was working in mainly in 3D design. I was working a lot with different things in 3D and kind of introduced a bit to some things in code through that. And that's kind of what started leading me to have some interest in doing development. Like probably anyone, I was looking at boot camps and doing research, and there's a lot of different options out there. And in the process of my research, I think my first discovery of arol.dev was that I was looking through some reviews on Reddit and came across a post from Errol, decided to look up arol.dev based on what he had mentioned. I had my first call with Errol, really went well. Like Errol was super warm and just kind of had like a really great, I think, personality for me. He made me feel very welcome, and also he also obviously I got the sense that he really knew his stuff. And I liked also the way he presented the program that arol.dev is doing, kind of this holistic approach to software development where you're really focusing on becoming an actual engineer and not just let's quickly go through these core things you need to get a job or something. You can kind of tailor it a bit to what you want to cover and what you want to learn. So that really stood out to me from some of the other boot camps. I didn't get the impression they were as flexible. I ended up about a month and a half or so later, I started a full stack development role in my current company. And basically, yeah, it's gone really well. I felt like what I learned in the bootcamp really prepared me for it. Something for me personally that was just in some ways luck, but it's been a really good fit. It was also work with 3D in in web development, since that's my background. I have basically like a mentor that I work with just because he's very senior. And so that's been super helpful, just to have someone who kind of helps oversee what I'm going to be working on, and will check in with me if I'm running into issues or whatever. But for the most part, I'm working quite a bit on my own, quite a bit of agency to make my own decisions about how to implement something. All of this prep that I did in arol.dev, it was like a perfect simulation of what I'm doing in an actual job now. And I think also gave me the confidence to realize like, okay, if I can do this here, like especially having the help of mentors and encouragement, in the real world, it's going to be very similar. I think that something that stood out to me is that when I left the course and was actually looking for jobs, many of the jobs that I saw were listing like the exact stack that we used for some of our projects. And if they weren't using it for my project in particular, I had still gotten some exposure even in arol.dev. And I think also it gave me the confidence when I actually went into my interviews that I could actually talk about things I did in the course and show how it relates to what they're working with, either in their stack or, if there's something in particular that they say is part of their philosophy. I could actually talk about how I have experience already just through the course that relates exactly to what they're looking for. And I actually, in one case, did even walk through one of the projects we did in the senior part. And I think it really gave the team that I was joining some confidence that I wasn't, complete beginner, or like, just was someone who, had done a little bit with React and that's all I knew. And the instructors at arol.dev were all really on point, really helpful. They always solved my problem with me. And it really made a big difference for feeling that I was supported and feeling that, again, I was getting the most for, this experience. I really felt just that feeling of like camaraderie, and that I was in this with other people who were motivated and bringing their own knowledge to the table, and each of us being able to kind of like have that complementary skill set that we could bring to hopefully help solving different problems. And this really gave me just a feeling of like, we're all in this together and it's going to be okay. Like, even if it's going to have tough moments, that's expected. So I attended the course. Basically, the first part I did entirely remote. And the second part I did the last 3 weeks I attended in person. So for me, it was important that the course be able to support remote. I'm a parent, so it was like I needed to not be like away from home for a very long periods. Time was really important, and the course really delivered on that. I mean, got me way more up to speed and way faster pace than I could have done on my own. I needed to feel that in my case that they were familiar with having remote students, that it wasn't a scenario where I'd be like the only remote student. And in our case, we had my cohort had people from basically around the world attending, and that was really like it was awesome because we actually got a lot of different perspectives. We also had everyone working kind of different time zones, and it kind of again gave me even a bit of a feeling for like what it would be like, I think, working at a real job where you might have some remote employees, or maybe you're an all remote team. And for me, it was an amazing way to end the course, like just to be there in person and kind of graduate together. That just really kind of created a special memory for me. The environment was super motivating, and I would say at times inspiring, and just, yeah, it made me feel like this is just a great place to be. If you're unsure about whether you would get value out of doing a bootcamp like this, again, for me and my experience with arol.dev, the value was huge. I think in particular, just having, again, mentors and the motivation that comes from doing it with a group of people, and also just having the structure that you get through doing the course creates a lot of confidence and keeps you going when you have moments where you have a challenging project, or you have moments where you do get stuck. I guess I would just say, don't feel afraid to jump in. And at the same time, yeah, start learning. Go ahead and prepare yourself before you start. So that way, at least you feel like you've done a little bit of your homework. For me, actually getting into a real job and doing this work, every day has actually been incredibly satisfying. And I would actually say even more satisfying than I may have initially anticipated. I think there's something about getting over the hump of the initial learning phase that leads to a feeling of like, wow, like I can actually do this, and I'm actually building things. If the beginning seems a bit daunting and you're kind of like unsure, but you still know deep down you do like doing technical work like this, I would definitely say that, like, for me, it actually got just even better, and I'm probably the happiest I've ever been coding at this point. So yeah, don't let the difficulty intimidate you, I think, is really the message I would say. If you overall know you do enjoy building things, the learning journey will have its tough moments, but eventually you're going to get to a point where you're actually really proud of what you're doing and excited about building things with people.